Los Angeles, and most Hollywood nights. She goes to California, oh, California.
What you say about Los Angeles?
LA got the people saying.
You're listening to Corner of the Galaxy on cornerofthegalaxy.com. It's time for another episode of Corner of the Galaxy from the Box, the show that gets you behind the scenes of the LA Galaxy and into the mind of soccer reporters and MLS experts. Your hosts for the day are Corner of the Galaxy's Josh Guesman and LA Times soccer reporter Kevin Baxter. Let's start the show.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Corner of the Galaxy from the Box on cornerofthegalaxy.com. I'm your host, Josh Guesman, coming to you on Monday, April 1st. LA Galaxy 1-0 victors over the Seattle Sounders in the wet and soggy grass at Dignity Health Sports Park. We're going to talk about that game. Does it mean much? Maybe, maybe not. Are the Galaxy good? Maybe, maybe not. And the best April Fool's joke that isn't an April Fool's joke, the LA Galaxy first in the Western Conference and first in the entire league. Welcome to Corner of the Galaxy from the Box. It's going to be a fun one tonight. To help me do all of the stuff we're going to be doing today, we're glad to have him on today, and he'll be my partner on Saturday when we do a live pregame show. Welcome back to the show, Mr. Alex Ruiz. Alex, how you doing, bud?
I'm good, Josh. I'm honestly very surprised and actually very glad you're not like every MLS podcast asking if the Galaxy are back.
Are they back,
I've heard
baby?
that question a million times in the last month or so thank you for not saying that.
It is funny. There is an incessant need to sort of gauge what the LA Galaxy are doing, right? There is a constant reevaluation, I think, that everybody is making right now. It's like, hey, this Galaxy team, they feel like they might be good. Are they back? It's like, what does back mean? And that's my whole thing. It's like, it's not about back. Let's figure out if the Galaxy are good first. And then you can decide whether or not they are back. And the stats and things that are starting to come around may indicate that the Galaxy are indeed a decent enough team right now. Maybe not the best team. Certainly the first in the league and first in the Western Conference was a fun one to sort of get out of it. We were talking to Greg Vanny afterwards. And Greg he says, I know we're pretty up there and everything. We're like, he was sort of like, where are we? Like, he was sort of waiting for a hint. We were like, yeah, you're first in the league too. And he's like, I thought so. Like, he was like, the whole deal. It's like, hey, that's where we want to be. So it was sort of fun, but I mean, they're all aware of the position that it puts them in. And I will say this before we get too deep into the discussions. A Galaxy team over in 2022 that had many chances, Alex, to sort of climb up the ladder and take over positions. And in 2022, we were always like, man, they just didn't quite ever grab. If you win this game, you'd be second in the West, that type of thing.
Exactly.
And they never did that, right? And it's like they never captured it. And here, they had a chance. They went out. They got it done. I don't care if it was pretty. I don't care if it was good soccer, because I would make an argument it wasn't very good overall. But when we look at this, it's one of those that you say, okay, they got it done. And that's what they've been doing this whole entire time, which if you mark them against any other team in Major League Soccer, they have done a better job than everybody else in Major League Soccer of getting it done so far. That's a broad thing to say, but sort of at least true in terms of the points that are out there right now. I mean,
we were asking this right after Greg Vanny's first couple of games with the club, right? I think they were near the top, second in the West, right? That year, their first loss came to Seattle, and this weekend, they actually beat Seattle for the first time in a very, very long time. So breaking some bad omens the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, you were talking. I remember you asking about Kansas City and saying, hey, you guys don't normally win in Kansas City. Then you have Seattle coming up. What does it mean to sort of get rid of some of this negative stereotype stuff, right? So Yeah, it's an interesting one. Let's get to some super chats before we super dive into everything. Aaron, a $2 super chat. Shout out to Gerald and Francis in 135. Aaron, it's good to see you're making friends, and I'm sure Gerald and Francis appreciate that. We really appreciate it. Rupert, $5 super chat. What's all the fuss here? Call that rain? Why, that's just dew on the lawn over here. Good of you to win a match at home. Good luck. Good luck, Bex. There we go. So, yes, this is one of those where if you saw the pitch and you saw it raining and you saw, I got in pretty much as soon as they opened the gate. Kevin Baxter was there with me. We walked in, we went up to the press box, we stood there, and we saw the coaches out on the field beforehand, kicking the ball back and forth and watching it. They were doing the whole thing where you kick it up in the air, Alex, and you wait to see if it bounces. Yeah, and it just went, and it would just splat, and there was just water. And I will tell you that from what it was when we first got there to what it was when they kicked off, they did a tremendous job, right? Like in terms of getting the water that was there, they really did a good job. That being said, that pitch was waterlogged. It was difficult to play in, and it absolutely affected that game in every possible way that you could ever imagine it being effective. That being said, it's still okay, right? It's still sort of there. $5 super chat from Brenda. Brenda, thank you for that. Looking forward to El Traffico this Saturday. Wish I could be at the digs, but we'll be cheering from home with the little one. That's okay, Brenda. Oh, the little one. Wait, did we have a baby? I remember we were talking about a baby, and then have we gone to having had the baby now? I don't remember, and forgive me if I'm an idiot, but I thought we were like close, like we were saying, hey, you're going to have the baby born in the stadium, and maybe that was the St. Louis game, and now we're back. Is that it? I want an update, please.
Yeah, I remember this conversation.
Okay, good.
This podcast, so I'm very intrigued as well.
Okay, good. Brenda, update. But we did. There we go. But she
in the
said,
stadium?
Yeah, not in the stadium.
Oh.
As a matter of fact, she clarifies that. She goes, we did. I didn't go into labor at the game, though. So, 50-50, Brenda. Next time, give it a little more college try. But congratulations on the little one. Hope you're resting well. Another Galaxy fan born. Always good. Keep stacking up the Galaxy fans. Got to breed them in order to get them, more and more fans. It multiplies. But congratulations, Brenda, from everyone here at Corner of the Galaxy. We're very happy. So let's give everybody again a little heads up, Alex. You and I will be there on Saturday, along with one Mr. Kevin Ryder from Kevin and Bean, Kevin and Sluggo, from the world famous K-Rock and KLOS. He's going to be there as our special guest as we do a live pregame show for El Traffico coming up on Saturday. This will be at Dignity Health Sports Park. So if you're not going to the game and you can go to the watch party, then please come join us, and we will take you all the way up basically to kickoff. Get you ready for kickoff, and we'll talk about the Galaxy. We'll have Kevin Ryder there, and he can tell us about his fandom and how he became a fan of the LA Galaxy and why he is consistently one of the big celebrity voices at the Galaxy game almost every single game. Mr. Ryder's there. So we're excited about that. Eric, I was going to say Eric. Alex, I know. It was the thing and the thing. Yeah, I know. Alex, we were sort of talking about it a little bit because it's fun to have you on there. And I know you missed on Saturday night. I'm like, oh, you missed it. But now we get to hang out like a whole bunch tonight and Saturday. So what are you looking forward to?
I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I mean, look, I think everyone knows about the ESPN College Game Day, right? This is basically going to be that, but for El Traffico. We're going to be bringing on Kevin Ryder, having a good chat, just me and Josh as well, just talking about the game, giving you an excellent preview of the game. I mean, I think it's one of the ideal experiences if you're a Galaxy fan. Come out here, watch us talk about the game, be involved in our conversation, and we're all just going to be like a big family on the screen just watching the game, right?
That's it.
So, I mean, this is all you need. You have the futsal courts at Galaxy Park, pickleball courts. I mean, it's a perfect environment to just bond and be with us, listen to us, and, just be part of a good time down there. I mean, I'm pretty sure the weather this weekend's going to be a lot better than last weekend.
It will be.
I mean, we're all going to, be, well, hopefully the sun's out and, holding hands and talking about the Galaxy and seeing if they can pull out an impressive win in El Traffico.
Sun's out, guns out. We're gonna have. Maybe we should if it's College Game Day, maybe we'll get headgear so we can pick. Wait, no, we know which way.
I thought you were talking pulling a Pat McAfee and taking off our shirt halfway through.
I mean,
the show.
You do you, Alex. I'm not gonna jump in your way. So it'll be a lot to do. Let's see. Executive producer Herb is in the chat as well. He goes, "Hey Josh, how much in super chats for a live podcast in the Valley? Springbok, maybe? I mean, we can listen. I have a busy schedule. I know you guys know this. On Saturday, I have a work day at the railroad, so I'm doing railroad work day. I'll be at the railroad basically until 12:30, 1 o'clock. bolt home, change real quick. I have to be up at the stadium around 2:15. That is my day, all right? And then I have to be back at the railroad on Sunday. And so that's it. But we will find something to do. We're going to continue to try to keep live shows going. So let's get you talking about this game, though, because this was an interesting one. We talked about the rain. Interestingly enough, rained on my way up to the stadium. Once I got to the stadium, really kind of stopped raining. And then it really didn't rain, I don't think, through the whole game. And I'm undercover, so the whole day it was cold, but I was undercover. I didn't get rained on until the game ended, and then whenever we started walking, we were even walking for a little bit, and then it started raining again as we were sort of walking down to the press conference and all that fun time. So it was a good time. It was a good time. So that's where we're at. For that start of the game, is that it didn't rain much during the game, but the water affected this game. We look at the starting lineup, and for the most part, a repeat in the terms of everybody who sort of came in there we thought was going to, except Gaston Brugman got the start, right? So we were sort of watching for that and when that was going to officially go. Gabriele Pec got his second straight start, had the best game out of all LA Galaxy players, so we'll talk about him a little bit. Barry started in place of Dejan Joveljic, and this is one that caught everybody sort of a little by surprise. We hadn't heard about it, but apparently picked up some sort of knock. A groin issue of some sort, or a growing issue if you're a Greg Vanny fan. Yep, I was waiting for it to happen too. A groin injury. They don't know how serious it is. It was good enough that he was able to train the entire day before, and so that's why he was able to sit on the bench, right? Mm-hmm. And so it was sort of like, oh, okay, here's the guy who's ready to go for history and all this stuff, and you get like a little injury, and then all of a sudden, you don't make it. So Miguel Barry starts in place of Dejan Joveljic, right? And then you got Riqui Puig, you got Gaston Brugman, you got Mark Delgado in there, you got Julian Alde, Martin Cáceres, who ended up having to come out of that game. We'll talk about that. Maya Yoshida and Miki Yamane. Yamane probably the second best player on that. That right side played really, really well. With Joseph Paintsel not having a very good offensive day, even though he had the assist on the goal, not having a great offensive day, but drove Nuhu crazy between Paintsel and Yamane and sort of the battle that was everything there, and then John McCarthy in goal. So those were that was your starting lineup there and all that fun stuff. Let's see. Lasso's Optimism, $5 super chat. Hello, gents. Fun times, and yes, that was a lot of rain, and yes, that was a win. What an April Fool, Rupert. That's a $5 super chat. Alex with the $2 super chat. We appreciate that as well. Alex, are you giving your own super chats now? No. It's
I'm just trying to boost myself.
Okay.
Corner of the Galaxy social credits. That's
awesome.
what I'm calling it.
Awesome. I love it. Alex, $2 super chat. Thank you for that. You're first on our live stream here. We appreciate you, Alex. Thanks for doing that. So now we look at the LA Galaxy. Here's the thing I'm going to say in general about the game. And let's talk about generalities, then let's focus in on some of the guys. It was not a pretty game, and the field clearly was a reason for that. Mm-hmm. I will also say the way the Galaxy started this game was crazy to me. The formation or lack of a formation to start the game was, it's hard sometimes when you're watching it and the whole deal. I implore you to go on MLS Season Pass. I implore you to watch the first 15 minutes of that game and try to figure out where Joseph Paintsel is playing. Try to figure out what they are trying to do. And if you pay attention just for a little bit, and they were even mentioning, Moadu was talking about it, and they were sort of looking at it, and they were saying they're just overloading the right side. Joseph Paintsel was playing next to Pec. Joseph Paintsel was playing next to Barry. And a lot of times it was almost like a 4-4-2 in defense, and then a little more 4-3-3, if you want to call it that, on the attack. But all they did was overload the right side, and it was almost like a blitz. It was like, hey, everybody just go up the right side, and we're going to score from that side. And they do, right? They end up scoring early.
4 minutes in.
You get 4 minutes in, as Alex says, 4 minutes in, and it's an overload. All they're doing is overloading that side. There are so many bodies from the LA Galaxy on that side. Puig to Paintsel to Pec, right? First of all, Calif. Combining for the first time. This is called designated player soccer. When your three DPs touch a ball that ends up in the back of the net, and it's their combined excellence that creates that's designated player soccer. It was, of course, called out as tiki-taka soccer again, so there's been some of that, which is interesting. It's nice to see some of these things coming back again, feeling a little nostalgic with some of the things that are going on. But, I mean, Alex, it's a crazy sort of formation in quotation marks. I mean, it's almost like they were like, hey, Joseph Paintsel, just run wherever you want.
Because it's like they're playing backyard soccer at some point, to be honest, because you're like, everyone's all over the place. You have kind of Riqui playing as a left midfielder sometimes.
Yes.
You have Paintsill kind of just floating, having a free roaming role. I mean, Pec is just finding spaces to go in there. I mean, you have Yamane just rushing forward as well. When we've seen him be a lot more conservative with his run. So when that first goal happens, again, like you mentioned, right, having all your DPs combined, this is literally what every good team in Major League Soccer has done. The Galaxy finally have that, and they are a good team now. So, I mean, they're getting to see the benefits of having all DPs being very healthy, all these DPs in their primes right now. It's exactly what you want to see if you're an LA Galaxy fan. These guys combining, these guys showing off their awareness, their IQ, their technical ability on this goal here. I mean, sure, Pec gets a little lucky with Fry, not making the best save on that shot, but I mean, a goal's a goal, right? They all count the same. So the fact that, Pec was able to get one on the scoreboard is a huge first confidence. I think very much needed considering, he's the Galaxy's most expensive player of all time.
Yeah, it is. And listen, not the world's best shot in the world. The fact that it was all one-touch soccer on the inside of the box and the fact that you're able to penetrate into the box that quickly, to get a shot off that quickly, all those things add to Stefan Fry not being able to handle that ball. I also think that it perhaps had a little English on it and was diving and dipping whenever Pec hit it. So I think he caught it pretty flush. But if you go through and watch through that very beginning as well, you can see the players trying to get used to what is happening with that field as well. There were certain areas in the field the ball would not roll through, right? And technically speaking, it's one of those things that, you're not really supposed to play when that happens. Like when the ball can't bounce or the ball can't roll through something, you don't play. We always knew they were going to play that game. They weren't going to not play that game. So, they sort of make those exceptions, that type of thing. But it was interesting to see who that affected and who it didn't. Alex, by the way, another super chat, $5 super chat. Josh, I know you said you weren't worried about McCarthy's distribution a few episodes ago, but is it finally time to address it? I'm still not worried. I will say that Greg Vanny made mention of it in the post game. He said he thought we kicked a lot of, I'll paraphrase, I thought we kicked a lot of balls out of bounds on goal kicks and stuff like that. I will say this, that in this particular game, if you didn't see John McCarthy slip at least twice in this game, he was playing on ice back there in terms of what he was able to do and how he was able to do it. I would not put so much criticism on him in this particular game. I'm not saying it's not a true thing, Alex, right? I'm just saying that in this particular game, the Galaxy go up 1-0 in the fourth minute. Now, it's very, very rare here, Alex, that you and I will ever say this about the LA Galaxy. They scored in the fourth minute, and they didn't need another goal. They ended up winning at 1-0. That's crazy in itself, but it also affects the way that they played. And if you can't see that they turned very, very conservative in the second half, no more back passes, trying to keep the ball away from McCarthy, all these things, not taking as many risks, and they still
no more dummies in the middle of the field that lead to transition moments. I was watching that moment too, and I'm just thinking like Gaston Brugman is just coming in, like don't be testing him like that. This is his first start this season,
right?
The Galaxy are lucky that doesn't lead to a goal, but yeah, I mean they were totally caught out in transition in that moment. And that's like one thing that came up to me in my head while watching this game was like, I sure, like you said, right, you shouldn't really put too much weight on players' performances in this game, given that the field definitely affected how they play, considering the Galaxy like to play on the ground and a possession style. But at the same time, you also got to be like, okay, the decision-making also needs to improve. And this is a game where decision-making was going to be the X factor for both teams.
Well, and let's also say that Seattle's ineptitude and their inability to score and really even put balls on. They had, and here, we can go to the stats because the stats are very one-sided whenever you look at it. 17 shots for Seattle, 3 shots on goal. I actually had like full-time stats that showed that each team had 2 shots on goal. Maybe they changed something eventually. Again, the stats right now, kind of up in the air. Just if we're getting them from Major League Soccer, they're up in the air. I wouldn't say anything. But 17 total shots for Seattle, 9 total shots for the LA Galaxy. The Galaxy had 2 shots on goal. Seattle had 3 shots on goal. McCarthy didn't have to do anything crazy. He had maybe one really good save, and that was probably it. Because Jordan Morris missed the best chance of the night when he missed from about 6 yards out, coming across wide open in the net. He should have been able to put that away, and he missed it. Ruiz had a couple chances in the center of the field where you're like, oh man, he's going to put that on frame, and they couldn't put shots on frame. I was shocked at how poor Seattle played. And by the way, it was their finishing really that they played poor for me, Alex, because I thought their build-up play through the rain and through the puddles and all that stuff was actually really a head and shoulder above where the Galaxy were. So I was surprised they couldn't finish. I was surprised they didn't score. That being said, 100% the LA Galaxy went into defense mode once they scored that goal. They were like, let's be smart about this and the whole deal. The fact they were able to keep a 1-0 win, which they haven't done, I think it's since 2020, was it 2023 against Austin? At Austin, they won 1-0?
I think it was 2022. That's the one where Delgado scored the one goal from like outside the box, and then they held out till the end. But that was like on the road too. So I don't even remember the last time at home that they did this at home where they won by 1 goal and didn't allow a single goal either.
Right.
So I think I had to go even further back to find that. I don't even know if in Greg Vanney's tenure they've been able to do that at home.
Well, and by the way, we are reaching that dangerous area where Greg Vanney has now won 2 games in a row. And so if perhaps the Galaxy could win against LAFC coming up, and this is an El Tráfico week, we're gonna do our best not to talk about that game because it's coming, and we want to save it for Thursday. But everything we're talking about is now colored with what is going to happen in El Tráfico. So it is there. We are sitting there waiting for it. We know it's there. You know it's there. I know everybody's been already talking the ish on Twitter, going all crazy already. It's already started. Like as soon as the game was over on Saturday night, Galaxy fans were already talking crap. And if we look at El Tráfico, we think this is the first time the Galaxy will actually be above LAFC whenever they in the standings whenever they play each other. And so that might be, it's a weird one because I think they may have been tied at one point whenever they went into one of them, but I think
the one the full season Zlatan was here, I think they were around tied or like close in there, but that's like the closest they've been since like that time. So
right. There has never been
like back when like Obama was or like Trump was president.
It was this close. Thanks, Obama. So it's one of those that we look at. So yeah, we're aware of that going on. Focusing in on Seattle though, let's talk about some of the individual games because I think that's probably the easiest way to talk about this game, just because for my mind this was less of a team offense game and more of maybe singular guys going ahead and making some good plays and other guys just sort of surviving in this. We talked about Gabriele Pec. He gets the goal, but there was more. He was a menace the entire night. He led to 2 direct yellow cards. And I think he was around the third one, right? Then basically I think Nuhu was mad whenever he fouled him or something like that. It was like him and Yamane were going back in there and to that type of thing. Yeah. So I think he had at least 2 yellow cards attributed to him that were
the Nuhu one and then the Ruiz one where he like trips him in the middle of the field as he's breaking and dribbles through there. Yep. That was you just had to do that.
There was one of the other ones was for me was borderline like yellow orange, because I'm all for taking somebody's legs out and fouling them whenever they have the ball, and like it's like you can, we call it the professional foul or the tactical foul, right? Which is you're going to take somebody down from behind, you're taking the yellow card. You already know you're getting the yellow card, that's fine. When the ball's not there anymore and the ball is like well past you and now you're lunging at somebody, to me, that's no longer yellow card territory. That gets borderline red card. You're not trying...
Yeah, that's very much malicious intent right there.
Right. You're taking somebody out because you can't play, right? And it's like whenever you're getting into the I can't catch you, so I'm just going to grab you or tackle you or hold you or hug you, and I don't care where the ball is. The ball to me is still important, even if you take down somebody from behind in like that tactical way. Just me feeling. I'm not saying that everybody should feel that way.
I mean, we finally got the pro refs back, right? I mean, I saw Damien asking Maya about the first time we can talk to you without the thought of fines.
And you heard Maya. He says, I was very happy to see the pro referees back, right? And it's funny because he's saying pro is in the Professional Referee Organization, which really hires the PSRA, the Professional Soccer Referees Association. So pro, PSRA, that's how we talked about the whole deal. But it's also funny because it has like the second meaning. It's like, oh, I'm glad we got the professional referees back
exactly.
too, right? It was
like double meaning right there. You can get away with whatever you say. Oh, no, I meant the organization, not that they were amateurs.
For me, I was really impressed. This was the first game where you said, okay, Peck, you're a designated player. I get it. Like you can see it. Caused problems on unstable footing. Was able to dribble through the bad spots. The whole deal. Best part of the post game, Juninho, one of all, is doing our translation. So Juninho comes in to do the translation with Peck, and Peck goes, sort of asks him about the weather and the whole deal, and he goes, it wasn't so much the water, it was just so cold I couldn't even feel my feet, right? The whole deal, and it's like the Brazil boy is not used to our cold winters here into the springs, right? So fun to sort of
freezing 60-degree night in Southern California, right? Not used to that.
Alex, it was cold. All right, I was freezing. I had a sweat. I had a jacket on. I had a long sleeve shirt on underneath, and I was cold. And I complained on Twitter that I was cold. So one of those things. Eric, by the way, gives us a $10 super chat. Thank you, Eric, for that. I've seen pro splashing while dribbling. See, so that's always good. And we saw the rooster tails. It sort of looked like one of those, like, what are the boats that somebody will know in the chat room? You know, the boats that are on lakes and they're like the hydroplanes, but they're just like the drag boats, right? They go real fast and they get the big rooster tails that come up behind them whenever they go down the lake. Yeah. That's what it looked like when the Galaxy were playing or when Seattle was playing. They would run through those puddles and the rooster tails would shoot up into the air and then they would try to hit like a big sweeping. So we go from Pec, who I thought was great. And if you have any comments on Pec in terms of what he did?
I think my biggest observation with Pec and the reason why we saw him be so effective on the night is because he finally got to play as an inverted winger against SKC, right? He's playing on the left-hand side and he's left-footed. So, I mean, there he's got to be very conscious of his touches, of the angles that he's going to do passes, when he's going to shoot. I mean, when you're left-footed and you're on the left wing, there's not really that many great opportunities for you to shoot. Even in the, I guess, ghost assist he had to Delgado for that game-winning goal.
Right.
Like, it was like a weird shot, cross, whatever. He can claim it was a shot or a cross. It doesn't matter. But when he's playing as an inverted winger, you got to see him be a lot more thoughtful with the spaces he was running into, noticing where the passing lanes would appear. I mean, there's that one shot he has in the first half, right, where he tries to curl it over to their side and it just misses.
I thought
like that would have been a golazo right there.
I thought that was in. When he hit it, I was like, that's going to be in.
Yeah.
And I think if it's not wet, that ball probably goes in because it's just one of those where because the ball's a little more slippery, you don't get quite the bite from the boot on it, and it doesn't hook quite enough, right? And so it just went wide on the post, but it was such a nice setup. And it was really, if you remember the goal that they scored, there was some deja vu in that because you saw Paintsel make almost the same exact run earlier. And you saw Yamane make almost the same exact run that opened up space for Puig to come in behind. It was like the same thing within, I don't know, a minute of each other. And the second time it works for a goal. And you're sort of
that only happens because Pec is playing as an inverted winger where he can shoot in that opportunity, right? I think in this game as well, seeing a bigger sample size of him, we can see he's very much dependent on his left foot. That's where he does all his danger on the left foot. Not very much usage on the right. So he needs to be an inverted winger in order to have these moments to be dangerous where, he gets his goal, where he gets that shot that was so close, right? Where he makes these dangerous runs and where he's gaining that confidence because we see he's not afraid to take on people. He's, got good dribbling ability, good technical ability on the ball. I think in better conditions, we're going to see him be a lot more of a threat, right? Like you mentioned earlier, right? Paintsel really wasn't having that great of a game offensively. He wasn't very efficient on the ball, I thought. But you had Pec be that direct option, be the guy who could cause some headaches. And the guy's going to need that this season when, Paintsel isn't firing on all cylinders. You're going to need Pec to step in. And again, there's a lot of expectations on this kid, especially because he knows, and we all know that he's the most expensive player they've ever signed. Their biggest investment that they've made. He's their future. The club is banking on Gabriele Pec to be their guy for the next 3-4 years. And I think as soon as he starts to build that confidence, get more familiar with the team, right? He's working a lot more with Yamane now, and both him and Delgado, very smart players, know how to rotate very well, and are very conscious of the spaces they take up. And I think that's going to really help Pec if he can play on the right-hand side and cut in and use his left foot to be a danger instead of how he was against SKC, where he didn't really do much on that left wing.
Right, yeah, you can sort of see all those things. Now, Jonathan gives a $10 super chat, says, Puig's back hills are the bane of my existence. For the love of Pete, stop. No back hills and no penalties to Puig. Here is, and we were having this discussion. It was, I'm sure it was a perfectly civil discussion in the press, within the press corps afterwards in the TV studio. But we were talking about Puig. And in general, I said, the last two games he hasn't really played well. You can put the 8 minutes where they score 3 goals, certainly in Sporting Kansas City, among the better, and he had a better second half. But that first half, he wasn't very good against Sporting Kansas City. Then he comes into this game, and I will argue it was one of his worst games. Now, there's reasons for that. I'm okay saying that there are reasons for that. It's not excuses, but you talk about a guy who loves to turn on a dime. You talk about a guy who likes to dribble a lot, dribble through the center of the field. Where's it wettest? Where are the puddles? It's in the center of the field. Him dribbling through those things was not in the cards, and he had to force the ball through in order to do it. I think he did a good job doing it. My big problem was, and maybe I'm asking too much, maybe I'm not, you have to recognize whenever you're not going to be able to play your game. And for me, Riqui Puig is never able to recognize when he can't play his game. He just keeps forcing things and trying things. The dummy through the center of the field, as we mentioned before, it's like one of those. It's like not the time. not the time. Let's be smarter with our decisions. He had a big cross at one point, and it was the Galaxy in the second half were breaking out. They had got the ball. It was a semi-counter, but it was a chance to sort of get possession. It was a chance to breathe. It was a chance to do all this stuff. You're like, okay, this is great. He had on his left-hand side Aude, who was sort of moving up the field, the whole deal. And he tries to hit a hero ball from sort of right center over to the left side, I think to catch Pec, right? And do all these things. And you're like, that wasn't the play. That's not where you wanted to hit it. You can't do that in that situation. And what happens is the water sort of gets between him and the ball whenever he kicks it. It comes up short, which is what was happening with the big crosses on the night. They weren't going as far. The water was affecting the way of the ball flight, and it doesn't get there, and it's a turnover. And now all of a sudden, here they come again. Seattle's back on the front foot. And to me, it's like you had a chance to hit a square ball to Aude. And what's Aude going to do? He's going to run forward because he has some space. He's going to take time. Greg Vanney talks so much about like resting defense or resting on offense and stuff like that. The Galaxy hurt themselves many, many times because they didn't make smart passes whenever they could rest on offense or whenever they could get behind the ball and possibly rest on defense. His criticism of his own team, Greg Vanney talking about how they gave the ball away too easily. They were constantly giving it back to Seattle, and that led Seattle. Again, a more competent team, and Seattle is missing a whole bunch of players right now, but a more competent team punishes the LA Galaxy. The XG was to Seattle in this game, not to the LA Galaxy, and that's because the Galaxy scored a goal and then said, let's really try not to mess this up.
Exactly. And I think the one thing too, I think that's really been the Achilles heel of the LA Galaxy the last couple of years, especially with Puig on the team, is that they seem to very much try to thread that needle way too often when there's times where you just play it simple. KISS, right? Keep it simple, stupid.
That's right.
So I feel like that's something that needs to be on the locker room right there. Just a general reminder, you don't need to hit those one-time balls every single time. Greg Vanney so many times has talked about how, they just get tired when they don't have the ball, right? Because they're running after it. And this Galaxy team struggles when they're against the ball. And I think that you need a player like Puig who, he's got that connector ability where he can just play those short passes, combine quickly with his teammates in the midfield. You're going to open up so much more spaces like that rather than playing that big switch. And again, Riqui Puig as well also needs to know when, what's not working is not working. Got to evolve, got to do something else to help out your team. He's the star player. He's got to set that example. He's the guy who's marketed the most among the LA Galaxy players. I think I saw he was on an Old Spice ad or whatever at like some Walmart or whatever, which is cool. And he's got the face for it. And he should definitely be on those commercials. I think that would be very interesting to watch. But nonetheless, he's just got to find ways to just help push this team forward because this is his team now. I mean, no more hiding behind Chicharito or I don't say hiding behind Douglas Costa because he really wasn't that leader, out there in general, like Chicharito was. But I mean, this is his team now. He's got to elevate this team. He's got to put them on their backs sometimes. He's got to know when to take a step down and when to take a step back and help this team in different ways than when it's not then what he usually does, which is just dribble around the middle of the pitch.
$5 super chat from Adam. You might have addressed this already, but how long will Kosaros be out for? And Yamane has been an underrated signing in my opinion. Yamane first. Outstanding. So, like I said, second best player in this game by easily for me. Just the way that he comes in, he can invert himself sort of on defense and sort of almost plays like a little bit of a sweeper sometimes. On offense, being able to progress the ball through him on the right hand side, but having him not so much always stretch that side. How many times in this game did you see him run through the top line and was looking for the overlap? I mean, he seems to be becoming really comfortable in getting up and around and combining with whoever he's on the right side with. And so, even Delgado, when you get Delgado and Paintsel and Yamane or Delgado and Pec and Yamane in there, the combinations there are absolutely like gigantic. You can see it. And he's going to be, outside of me being the Mark Delgado fanboy here, being like he's the most underrated player, the most underrated player outside of Mark Delgado is going to be Miki Yamane. And this particular game, like I said, second best player on the field. The Galaxy defense, Maya Yoshida, the grandfather, talking to us.
Oji-chan.
I was talking to, so we had a member of the press from Japan who actually stopped and asked me about Maya Yoshida, so we did the whole thing. So if you're in Japan, you see a quote from Josh Guesman. That was real. That actually happened. But we were talking about it a little bit, and I'm like, I go, you don't understand. I go, he gets respect. And I go, maybe that's like the Japanese persona, and I'm like, I'm not familiar with it, but like when he walks in, everybody's like, oh, Maya's here. Like the players, the coaches, the press, everybody. We're all like, oh, Maya's
He's got
here.
that aura. He's got that aura that not a lot of players have. And like like a good way.
A super good way, right? And then they're like, because he was asking, why is he captain? I'm like, no. This dude is a captain. Like, he was born a captain. I imagine he came right out of the birth canal and was like, oh, that dude's a captain. He got the armband.
Yeah, he came out right with the captain's armband too, and everything.
That's how it was. So, but no, just watching him and just Yamane and Yoshida and what they're able. But Maya was talking afterwards and saying how in a game like this, the defense had to be patient. And if you go back and watch this game, which may give you a heart attack, and sometimes because they are patient, but they don't watch them not dive in. Watch them not like take to the ground. Watch them be very conscious about their positioning and where they are and taking away angles. We can talk about Seattle missing some big chances, and they did. And the biggest one was Jordan Morris. Greg Vanny even talked about that one. Was like, man, I thought that was the only time we were really nervous. It's like, yeah. So over 90 minutes, Seattle had one chance that was really, really dangerous, right? Where you were like, oh, that should have been a goal. Outside of that, the Galaxy, who have been bleeding goals, only gave up one goal. So 50% of that is Seattle not being a very good team right now. And I think they're going to be better. So don't count them out yet. But it's difficult whenever you get whenever you get in these holes, right? And we talked about the Galaxy. Greg Vanny had a very colorful quote. I won't say the whole thing about it, but he said he was sort of, we were talking about being undefeated through 6 games and sort of what it looked like, Alex. And he said, I'll be honest with you guys, again, paraphrasing, I'll be honest with you guys. When I looked at the first 10 games, he was like, holy beep. It was one of those where he was like, I looked at it, he goes, it was difficult. They're difficult teams. Playing in difficult places, in places that maybe we don't win, or teams that we don't often beat, like we just don't have good records against. He goes, and I looked at those and said, this is going to be tough. And you look at the Galaxy right now, and they have survived all of those, and they haven't all been pretty. If we're going to say one thing about this game, and it's something I like to go back to, Alex, it is this. This is my takeaway. And I was talking with some people around the Galaxy about this after the game too. Good teams, and again, there's still this discussion. Are the LA Galaxy good? I don't know yet. But good teams, when they don't play well, find ways to get points. Good teams at home, when they don't play well, find ways to get 3 points, right? They did exactly what they needed to do to get 3 points and not anything more, not anything less. And it wasn't a great performance, but they survived it and they moved on. And now they continue that sort of undefeated streak, right? And so then now they're getting into that 7th game, which is now Traffico, which, by the way, throw all the record books out. It doesn't matter now what the records are between these two teams, because anytime they play, it's whatever it is. But for me, that's what we learned on Saturday, which was this team, good teams do this. Bad teams rarely do. And we watched the Galaxy last year. Would you have put them in for a 1-0 win against Seattle in the rain, right?
Never in my million years after what happened last season. I mean, look, I think the one thing too that's so important as well, and I think, I should highlight too, is I think the defense as well, like we mentioned it, like you mentioned earlier, right? They weren't extremely aggressive. They knew when to pull in, when to pull out. I think, and again, they're showing it that in open play, they're a good defensive team, right? Most of the goals that they've allowed have been through set pieces, and I think we're seeing that evolve and trying to, be this better defensive team. And sure, there's gonna be questions about McCarthy's distribution, but again, we're not gonna put much weight into this game. I thought Aude and Yamane were excellent in this game. I thought Aude, has also been a very underrated player so far this year.
He has quietly, right?
Yeah, he gets the Mark Delgado Award away from Miki Yamane. We got to give out these awards to like almost a lot of guys on their team.
Everybody's underrated.
Yeah, but the fullbacks have been really good. I was looking earlier at the stats, and Yamane and Aude on top 2 for like a lot of the defensive categories in the team. And I think Yamane is in the top 10 for tackles and interceptions so far. I think Aude is close to the top 10 when it comes to block crosses and shots. So I mean, these guys are really putting in work in the outside back spot. And, I'll say it again. I think Julian Aude is a very talented player, and we're really going to see him evolve and take that next step. And I think we're seeing that so far this year. He already has 2 assists to Dejan Joveljic. And again, I think his game defensive is going to get much, much better. And there was a lot of criticism over the offseason if, he's the guy, if he's their future. And so far, I think he's very much, silenced a lot of those questions. And I think he should be recognized for taking that leap as well, because I don't think a lot of people are talking about that.
No, well, I mean, there were lots of question marks. Oh, well, Aude's not the guy. Dejan Joveljic isn't the guy, the whole deal. I mean, we talk about Dejan Joveljic coming into this game eventually and not getting a goal, but that really wasn't his job in this position, right, is to score a goal. Yes, there was history. Greg Vanny talked about it. Yeah, he was aware that he was playing for history. But he, as Vanny said, too early in the season to risk anybody for injury. Like, it's not worth it. Don't care what the history is. Don't care what all that stuff is. It doesn't matter, really. It matters about him being healthy for the next
And like
game.
you mentioned with Brian McBride's record, right? He only finished the season with 3 more goals after that great start. So, I mean, again, it might not be all that great to go chasing after that, especially this early in the season. You don't want to risk Dayon. He's been really good. He's finding his confidence again, and you don't want him back on the bench, again, as he's been for so long in his LA Galaxy career.
Yeah, it is. It's an interesting one. Second part of Adam was Kosaris. How long will Kosaris be out? We don't know. I will tell you this. He had an MRI today. I don't even think that... One is... MRI today, I don't expect we're going to know anything till Thursday. That's usually whenever we'll find out whether or not there's anything to this, to the injuries or anything like that. So if you're seeing anything out there, it's April Fool's. So just be careful on a horrible. I hate April Fool's Day. Do you know how often you have to like talk to people about like rumors that you hear on April Fool's, and they're like, oh, that's a April Fool's. You're like, yeah, of course it is. I knew that. I was just checking to make sure you knew that. So we don't know right now. I went back and watched the first 30 minutes and basically just tried to follow Kosaris wherever he went to see if I could figure out what sort of happened. The only thing that happens is just before he goes down is he tries to overhead a ball in the box and he sort of swings and misses on it. Because I think it was tipped out or something like that. It was the one where Morris ran into McCarthy and Elfath called the foul the other way.
Yeah, it was that awkward play, I remember.
Yeah, so he tried to do that. But he hops up from that, and he's walking normally, and it doesn't seem like it's an issue. I look through everything else up to 30 minutes, and at no time does he look like he's in any discomfort until he goes down and they say, I have to be subbed. And Greg Vanney said it was precautionary. And that or at least he was hoping it was precautionary. He said he didn't know because he hadn't talked to him yet, but that he thought maybe a muscle tightened up on him, and they just got precautionary and they pulled him out just to make sure. So that's where we're at. I think again, he gets up to walk off the field, and he's not even limping whenever he's coming off the field. So it's like, it's really hard to tell how injured he is or what the problem is or anything that, especially with Kosaris too.
I've had people in the Galaxy say that, he's like an animal out there. Like, he's just a beast. He gets out there. He has a different mentality. I'm not surprised, to be honest, to hear that about Kosaris, where you can't even identify where's the moment he gets hurt. That's just who he is. And I think, I thought Zavaleta did a really decent job when he came back in.
Twice.
These last 2 games.
Yes.
He's been really good. Really another underrated guy so far. How many Mark Delgado awards we can give out tonight?
A bunch, yes.
Yeah, so many. I thought he was really good. Him and Yoshida, I think before when Martin got the red card, Maya mentioned like, I'll have somebody to speak English with in the back line. And again, communication is so key in that position. And we're seeing Zavaleta really, really start to, look good. I mean, he always gets a ton of crap from LA Galaxy fans online, but I mean, you can't really say anything. He's not been like, he's not been bad. He's doing his job. What he's paid to do is a minimum league center back in MLS. There's nothing more you could ask for. He's doing everything he can.
And I like to make sure that everybody rolls their eyes whenever I say he's a really good locker room guy too. I like to point that out because I know there's people who are like, I don't care what he does in the locker room. What does he do on the field? It's like, well, actually, he's pretty good on the field too.
Yeah, he's been good.
He's fine. He's perfectly adequate, which is not what you want to hear about somebody. But like, whenever he comes in, you didn't lose anything, right? The Galaxy still picked up a clean sheet. It's like you didn't even know Kosaris was missing, quite honestly.
Yeah, he's not been a liability in these last 2 games.
Has not. ES gave us a $2 super chat. He calls Riqui Puig is the poor man's Mauricio Cienfuegos. Probably, I imagine Puig is making a lot more money than Cienfuegos made whenever he came to play with the Galaxy, but that could have just been me.
Probably getting as much money with that, what's it called? What's the deodorant brand called again?
Which one? The
He's on the I use the deodorant. I don't even remember the name.
Old Spice? Not Old Spice.
Yeah, Old Spice.
Old Spice.
Okay. He's making as much money as Cienfuegos with the Old Spice.
You're an Old Spice guy?
Yeah, I mean,
okay.
I have some Old Spice. Okay.
What
guy are you?
I didn't know. I just figued eventually you'll grow up. That's all. I was just figured. I figured.
I know that was a very condescending tone.
That was correct. I'm glad you picked up on it. $29.83 super chat from executive producer Herb. Here to remind everybody, you're listening to the award-winning Corner of the Galaxy podcast. 16 seasons going strong. And please hit the like button. Feel free to send a test super chat to make sure super chats work. No Dr. Pepper, Josh. Josh is not drinking Dr. Pepper anymore. Okay, well, that's not true. I still have them every single day. I just don't have multiples of them, okay? And did you... Okay, this is going to be another movie for you to watch. Did you watch any of the Lethal Weapons? No.
I've seen clips of it. But
Okay, Lethal Weapons. So at one point, and I forget what their names are because it's been so long since I even watched it. The guy was smoking cigarettes, but in order to quit, he would buy a pack of cigarettes, and then he would be the count out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. He was like, oh, here's 20, and he would throw 20 away, and then he would just have 2. And they're like, why are you doing that? He's going, well, I'm trying to quit. And the idea is that eventually it just becomes so financially ridiculous that you don't want to smoke anymore. Yeah, so that's sort of like me with Dr. Pepper. When I go and I order a Dr. Pepper anymore, I order a large and then I drink about that much of it and I throw it away. So it doesn't make any sense to me. So there we go. So that was it. Thank you for that, Herb. I hope I did a good read on that for you. I appreciate you as always, Herb. Hopefully we'll see you out there soon. Gary, $5 super chat. Follow-up test super chat. When will COG win an Ambi award? Best pod ever. Ambi award sounds like something like Ambien, like it puts you to sleep. Is that what people use this podcast for? Alex, you can be honest. It's okay. I know. Let's go to one more.
I listen to this while I'm working out, you know?
Oh, that's when you're pumping the iron? Yeah. I'm sure.
So I can take off my shirt for our Saturday show.
For Saturday show. That's good. $2 super chat from Michael. We still have a max TAM and a U22 slot, correct? Do you correct on U22? From what we understand, I think still max TAM. We feel like there's one in there. There may be more than that. And so just keep that in mind when we sort of go through that, because we're going to talk about the rumor that's here as well. Popo's out, $5 super chat. We forget the Galaxy have tons of new players that have yet to play a full season together. So yes, they are that good. No wooden spoon this year. I mean, that at least feels like a pretty safe one for right now. Number 2 from Alex. I think this might be Alex's third super chat in this particular.
Like I said, Corner of the Galaxy social credits. So that's all I'm trying to build.
That's right. Let's celebrate the third super chat here for Alex. Every game has felt like a derby. I'll say it the English way. A derby. LA versus everyone, which is not horrible. And then a $2 super chat from Eric. Which stadium in El Tráfico? El Tráfico is at BMO. Which is another way of saying that other stadium over there. So that's when that will be going on this weekend. So again, we'll be at Dignity Health Sports Park because that's where the Galaxy are hosting a watch party. Just want to be clear. There's no game. We will watch the game on the screen afterwards. You and I will be like trying to figure out how to be on the post game like afterwards, like
exactly.
There. So it'll be good. There are some. Let's see. No Name says I use Dove for men. Is that a bad deodorant? No Name. That's an adult deodorant right there. That's what I'm saying. I'm with you.
What deodorant do you use, Josh?
That's it right there. Dove for men.
That?
Yeah. Oh yeah. 100%. I'm in on the Dove. Right. It's calm. It's like you don't smell like you just sprayed your body with Axe. You know, find yourself a good cologne.
I mean, I used to be I used to be like a speed stick guy, but mostly because of my grandpa, and that's very much a grandpa deodorant.
My dad was a Brute guy. Right? Like Brute. Okay. So that's what I started with. That's not something like a middle schooler should be wearing like whenever they first put deodorant on. That's a little like too like, oh, hey, is that your dad's deodorant? That's very much like in theirs now. So no, we're good to go. So he's gonna start quoting Loaded Weapon soon. Yeah, yes, we're quoting a lot of movies. Alex said he was gonna watch Wayne's World. By the way, I would just like to point that out.
I'll watch it by Saturday.
Okay, good.
Yeah, you got my word.
Okay, good. We're gonna drop Wayne's World references at the show on Saturday. So anybody else that we need to sort of call it? Gaston Brugman, I thought, had a very good game for playing in the wet. He had some mistakes the same as Puig did for me, which is sort of like, hey, don't take those chances. You still have to play. You don't want to strip the creativity out of the LA Galaxy. I get it. Like, you don't want to. It's very easy for us, Americans, Alex, to sit there and say, oh, let's not be so creative. Calm down. Play the easy pass. Play the square ball and all this. I really try to get away from that because creative, inventive soccer is something that we need to teach more of in this country, and we need to accept it. So we should be more forgiving of somebody like Riqui Puig, who can pull the magic off, who can do all of the things that we want him to do. So that's one of those things. It's just in these situations when you're winning 1-0, when you are very clearly parking the bus in order to stay sort of 1-0 or being very conservative in the play, which is one of the reasons I think the Galaxy didn't play well. It's just against their nature to be conservative. But they got the 1-0 when they did what they had to do. It was about, as Greg Vanny likes to say, it was about suffering, together. In those moments.
Let me ask you real quick. What do you think of Miguel's game?
Barry?
Like, is it in the conversation where you're like, do you want to use one of those U22 or TAM slots on a backup striker? I mean, we've seen him come off the bench in every single game, and he's had some moments where he's looked all right, but at the same time, it's kind of like I don't really know if there's anything to really judge him on, which I don't think that's a good thing as a striker. I don't know. What's your thoughts on Miguel?
I think not to put myself in always with Greg Vanney in the camp, but Greg sort of said that he always puts in a shift, and I'd like to see him be smarter with how he uses and how he works. He works really hard, Alex, and I like guys who work hard because I think you get rewarded when you work hard. There's not enough there for me yet. For him, I would like to see more, and I think he needs to have more. Otherwise, you are looking for a backup striker. You need somebody who's capable of scoring. He hasn't shown me that yet. He has shown me that he can combine and sort of be in those spaces in very limited action. And so for me, it's sort of like, okay, him coming off the bench, and Greg even said so. I like him better coming off the bench because I think, you can see it. He brings a lot of energy. He's a big body. You don't want to deal with him when he comes off the bench. And especially if the Galaxy are winning, it's a perfect place for it to sort of for him to play. When you need a goal, though, Miguel Berry coming off the bench doesn't exactly be like, oh, well, the Galaxy are getting a goal now. That type of thing. That's not the way you feel. And I think maybe you're going to need something like that. Joveljic is going to get a ton of minutes. He's going to have a lot of wear and tear on his body. Teams know that he's one of the top scorers in Major League Soccer, and they're going to hack him, and they're going to make sure that he feels every tackle and every crunch. He's going to get physically beat up like he hasn't, I think, so far in his time with the LA Galaxy. So knowing that, you're going to have to rely on a backup. And so Barry, for me, hasn't cut it yet. If he could start scoring some goals and actually being goal dangerous, I'm all for it because I think he works really hard and you want to reward it.
Aside from being doing a lot of cardio and, doing his thing, outside of the box, he's not really been a threat on goal so far in the minutes we've seen of him. And that's what you want to see from a striker. And I think that's really been the disappointing part in Barry's game so far.
It was funny. People are saying they miss Preston Judd. Well, you can have him this weekend. He got a red card. He's not doing anything. So if you want Preston Judd to come down,
we can invite him over to the podcast.
That's right. That's what we could do. So for me, somebody in one of our group chats called him Miguel Berry Zubac, and that's mean, but also perhaps accurate in a lot of ways, right? Like it's just sort of like. It's very easy for strikers. Show me the money, right? So put the ball in the back of the net. Show me the money, and then I'll believe. It's very easy. It's the easiest position to judge, which is why I think everybody is always, thinks that they're experts on strikers and everything else. Because if you put the ball in the back of the net, then it's easy to judge. You're like, oh, whole deal. It's like Joveljic going into this was getting a lot of stick. Well, he didn't put the ball in the back of the net. Now all of a sudden he puts the ball in the back of the net. Everybody's like, oh no, he's good. It's like, yeah, I know. There has to be some nuance in a lot of these things. So something to sort of watch as we continue. So that's my take on Barry. I want to see more. If he's going to be the backup, I need to see more. Something has to ripple the back of the net here pretty soon. Let's go into some of this. Let's get some stats from Kevin Acevedo over at the LA Galaxy. In the Galaxy's 1-0 win over Seattle, Gabriele Pec, one third of the Killapes, scored his first MLS goal, created 2 chances, won 11 of 16 duels, 3 of 3 tackles, and a game-high 11 possessions, completed 5 of 8 dribbles, and was fouled 3 times. I think all 3 times led to a yellow card of some sort in that as well. So that's one. Kevin Acevedo also goes on to say that the LA Galaxy extend their unbeaten run to 6 matches, 3-0-3, 13 goals for, 9 goals against to begin the 2024 campaign. The 12 points earned through the first 6 games to begin the season for LA rank as the 6th best start in the team's 29-year history. I actually have the chart that shows that as well. If you go in there, you had a better start in 2019, which is always interesting to sort of look at. 2019, they had 15 points through their first 6 games, 16 points in 2010. Is it 2010 they started the season with 12 games unbeaten? It could have been 2010. I think it was. 2010 they started the game with 12 games unbeaten. I also think that in that 2010 year, they had something like another 14 game unbeaten streak. It's a weird season because I have them all listed in terms of unbeaten. Let's see. 2011 was the 14 games. So
14-1.
Yeah, so I think in 2010 they started with a 12 game unbeaten streak. So that's sort of the bar. Unfortunately, with the LA Galaxy, you're always like, man, this team must be making history. And you're like, oh, no, it's just the 6th best start. And you can sort of see that in everything that's sort of popped up. Even if they were to win the next game, it doesn't put them in some crazy different level there, Alex. It's still like well within the bounds of what the LA Galaxy have done before. So it's a good start. It might make them like the 5th best start in LA Galaxy history. It doesn't really jump them into the stratosphere. Now, one of the things we wanted to show, though, which I think is a fun chart to show, First of all, let's look at all the LA Galaxy seasons and sort of look at the cone that we can see. We have all these different things. You're like, okay, so there's that sixth best start. You can sort of see the best lines up there on the top, and they sort of slide down. Again, this chart isn't so much so you can identify any particular year, just to sort of give you the idea of what it looks like whenever you chart everything, right? But when we go, Alex, to just the MLS Cup years, this is where it gets interesting. The LA Galaxy right now basically tied for the best start for an MLS Cup winning team that was an LA Galaxy team, right? So the Galaxy won Cup in 2002, 2005, 2011, 2012, 2014. Their start right now ties the best of those years through the first 6 games. So very much, we joke around, this is like our hurricane prediction tracker inside the cone of probability. The Galaxy are very much inside that cone of probability. Doesn't mean anything, because obviously you'd have to play this all the way out, but it certainly isn't like they're under those lines, like they'll be chasing anything. Right now they sit well within those cones for the MLS Cup years. So just one of those fun things to sort of point out.
Yeah, I mean, it's something you can't ignore either as well when you see those trends. Like, they're going to be eye-popping. They're going to be something you keep an eye on. And again, we're going to keep asking these questions of if the LA Galaxy are back. I think more so because of how bad last year was. If you kind of followed up the 2022 campaign where they made the playoffs into this campaign, we wouldn't be having those questions. But because they had such a bad season last year, we really need to think twice of if they're back or not.
Well, don't you dare say they're back. We can't start the podcast.
I know, I'm
like,
not saying they're back.
Okay, just saying.
Yeah, apologies for me. When they're back is when they're back to winning championship. That's when you say the LA Galaxy are back to me.
I think they're a good team. I really, underlying numbers tell me that they're a good team. We'll actually continue on and sort of say that right now, averaging 2 points per game, well above the 1.51, but 1.51 was for the entire season whenever you're looking at the average, but that still bodes well for the LA Galaxy. When you look at goals scored right now, let's go ahead and just mark this down. So the LA Galaxy has scored 13 goals through the first 6 games, okay? Fun. We can mark that down, take a check mark. So 13. Now, go back and look over all those years, Alex. Because we have, like, what are some of the highest scoring years? We can look at 2018 that had 66, or 2014 that they scored 69 goals. If you want to go back to 1998 and 85, that's sort of before the modern era. We'll call that, one of those outliers, but 85 goals, right? So in the modern era, the most goals the LA Galaxy have really scored was in 2014, MLS Cup winning year, 69 goals. Okay, we can look at that and sort of say that. So let's go to the prediction and show you how many goals the LA Galaxy are predicted to score right now. Right now, the LA Galaxy are on track to score 73.7 goals. So if we round it up to 74, if we want to flip back over, we can see that 74 is above 69. 74 would be the second highest scoring total for an LA Galaxy team in franchise history. That's the trend right now. Do we expect to stay that way? No. All right, but early on, if we're trying to sort of measure where everything is at, that's what we can look at. The other part about this is the goals and sort of what are the average goals. At one point, this was a very the goals against, right? At one point, this was a very high number. As we look now to the predictions and everything that's that, games played to date, 6 games, we can go in there and say that the Galaxy, having conceded 9 goals to date, are projected to give up 51 goals. Now, 51 would be the same number of goals they gave up in 2022. You were talking about 2022, so that's a good comparison. They gave up 54 goals in 2021, 67 goals last year. So if the Galaxy were to stay on this trend and finish around 50, 51, they could be improved as allowing less than 17 more goals. Now, last year was a disaster in terms of goals, right, Alex? But
yeah,
it's still something. It's like it's showing that there's a possibility for improvement. My only caveat to all this is that those numbers and those predictions absolutely change all the time. So the Galaxy lose 4-0. All of a sudden that number will shoot through the roof again because it's early and every little goal
way too early.
Sort of moves things around. But just keep an eye on that as we watch things go through. The other thing I sort of wanted to point out. Scoring first, scoring second. Galaxy have had 6 goals. They've gotten a result from every single game, including the 2 games on the road that they allowed the home team to score first. They got a result of that. One of those was a win. One of those was a draw. If you go back and look at the 3 games they played at home and the 1 game where they scored first, the San Jose game where they were away, the Galaxy are 2-0-2 in that. So usually we see a trend that whenever you allow a team to score first, Alex, that you lose those games. Right now, the Galaxy bucking that trend a little bit. But it's important to notice that as of right now, 2/3 of the games the LA Galaxy have scored first. And I think that's probably one of those important things to take away. Ready for team of the match day?
Let's see it.
We are starting to get used to seeing LA Galaxy players on this. And in fact, here we go. Gabriele Pec, the guy who we had as our man of the match, most certainly makes the team of the match day for the first time in his LA Galaxy career, gets the goal, and then put in a superb performance over 90 minutes. And by the way, that's another thing we didn't talk about. 90 minutes for Gabriele Pec.
Yep.
Joseph Paintsel came out as the Fagundes sub this particular time. So, I don't know. But I don't think you can heap enough praise sort of on that whole thing.
Yeah, that situation did looking really good. And I think Pec, once again, showing the flashes that they saw when they were scouting him. And again, we saw a little bit of that too if you're paying attention into the Brazil games he was at earlier this year. Like, you got to see a bit of those flashes here and there. And it's all about right now just him finding his confidence, him expressing himself on the pitch, and him elevating this LA Galaxy team to another level, because that's what they're expecting out of him.
Okay. So we have that. If we looked around the scores around the league, some matches absolutely went the Galaxy's way. Minnesota losing to Philadelphia, that 2-0 game there was an interesting one. Sort of looking at the Western Conference, the West of the things, Austin beat Dallas. That was a big one for Austin, who hasn't won a lot of games. Houston over San Jose, Nashville and Columbus drew there. You had a Salt Lake City who got 3 goals from what was it? Chicho. Arango. Yeah, Chicho Arango. 3 goals, the hat trick. Sasha Kleston suggesting that perhaps Chicho should have been tossed in that game before.
Yeah, I saw that play, and I'm like, wow, he really didn't get anything for that.
I think because the goalkeeper's head comes into the frame and sort of blocks the real clear, easy view, like, oh, that absolutely happened. I think that's the only reason he gets away with it. Vancouver 3-2 over Portland. That was an interesting one, and Galaxy have Vancouver on their schedule here pretty quick right after the LAFC game. So the next 2 games, very tough for the LA Galaxy. We talk about the 4:30 p.m. kickoff on Saturday on MLS Season Pass and Fox. With the Fox lead-in, we do expect that this kickoff time moves closer to 4:50, 4:55 than it would be to the 4:40 that we're normally used to. So be prepared for that. The Galaxy away to LAFC, away to Vancouver. We just talked about Vancouver. So they're there. Then home to San Jose, and then away to Austin. So 3 away games for the LA Galaxy in April. If you're taking bets on whether or not the LA Galaxy, who are one of 3 undefeated clubs right now in Major League Soccer and the only Western Conference team, Alex, I would say that April is the month that will probably find them at least once in this time of being behind the 8 ball and having to come up with a result or trying to salvage a draw. If they can make it through April, and as far as I'm concerned, you can crown them MLS Cup champs. I don't care if they get 4 draws in April through all that stuff, because there's some tough games coming through here.
A lot of games that are kind of winnable on paper, right? The Austin haven't really looked too good, but they'll be tested with both LAFC and Vancouver. I mean, San Jose again hasn't looked that good at all. It's just about getting through these next 2 games that are, on paper, the hardest ones on the schedule, and then, finishing the teams that you're quote unquote supposed to win against.
That's always the key. Beat the teams you're supposed to. Here's your Eastern Conference standings and your Western Conference standings. As you see, the LA Galaxy and Cincinnati tied on points, 12 points, 6 games played, 3 wins, 3 draws for both teams. The goal differential for the LA Galaxy at 4, Cincinnati with 3. The LA Galaxy tied for, I believe, the second best goal differential in the league. Atlanta has the best at 5, +5. The LA Galaxy at +4 right now. A bunch of teams at +4, though. Let's not pretend like they're not very much in the middle of the pack there. So that's where we stand after the 6 games played for the LA Galaxy. Miami, I believe, the only team who has played 7 games so far. Yes, still looks that way. So keep an eye on them as they continue on there. And then we go to the Supporter Shield standings, where the LA Galaxy have the lead on tiebreakers right now. The LA Galaxy with 12 points over Cincinnati. Is it goal differential or wins? It's got to be, on this particular case, it's goal differential because they're tied on wins.
I think in the grand scheme of things, when everything's done, the tiebreaker is wins.
Yeah, it's supposed to be like wins. Then if it's not wins, then I think it's goal differential. So that's why the Galaxy currently in first place in the Supporter Shield. But they lead the league. They lead the Western Conference. Now, should we do a little rumor talk, Alex? Because there's a good one out there, and certainly with the injury to Martin Cáceres, it's one that takes, I think, a little more urgency than we did. So let's do a little cooking with Koontz. All right. So
welcome back, kids. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, it almost feels like a kids program, which it should be from the way we talk. We have Pipe Sierra, who was reporting on Twitter that Carlos Amiro Garces, and it's super tiny font. I should have blown it up for me. Garces is close to becoming a new player for the LA Galaxy. He's a center back. He's 22 years old. He says that they reached an agreement with him for a loan with an option for a purchase. And they've also talked with the player already on personal terms, and those have been agreed to. Corner of the Galaxy can confirm that the LA Galaxy are interested. It is a loan with an option to buy. Galaxy motivated to get this player in now. This is not one of those things. I believe the transfer window closes April 23rd, so still plenty of time in order to do that. But this is a young center back, and people are asking, I think rightfully so. So what does this mean? Are they bringing him in to be a starter? Are they bringing him in to be a depth piece? So what's your sort of take on him as a player?
Yeah, I mean, the important thing here, right? A loan with the option to buy, kind of like Caligari was last year. Kind of get to see what he's like again. I think Yoshida and Cáceres, both their contract expire this year. So, again, you kind of need to plan a little bit for the future. And I think this can be an interesting move. I think Garces is really a player that stood out a lot in Colombia. I wrote something on my newsletter just analyzing him a bit. And, he's a guy who's like in the upper echelons of tackles won, has a ton of recoveries because he's got amazing recovery speed. Yeah. And I wrote that that's something the Galaxy center back room is desperately missing. They don't have a guy who can just, go pace for pace with the striker who can make those quick recoveries. And I think Galaxy really need that. Even if Jalen Neal were back, I don't think he has that kind of speed that Neal, he doesn't have the kind of speed that Garces has because he looks so athletic. He looks so good out there in the film I was watching from him in Colombia. And I think it's going to be a really interesting move. And I think he fits the needs that the Galaxy need and the needs that they don't have that are going to elevate their back line to another level. Because while it's great to have Yoshida and Cáceres, those veterans out there, you're eventually going to need that athleticism, that speed, especially in a league where there's so much transition moments and counterattacks where, that's going to be extremely valuable.
So for me, if you're trying to figure out where he sort of fits in, I think I think you said it well. He's a complementary piece, right? He fits in. He brings something the Galaxy don't have and fits in with what they're going to have. Now, so where does that leave it? Well, where are you going to play him? How's it going to, Maya Yoshida is clearly, I think right now, a solid starter in there. So you're looking for Cáceres, and whether or not he can play everyone. Right now, we're waiting to see if he's injured or if there's even a strain or if there's anything that's sort of going on with Cáceres right now. Vanny didn't know and didn't say so. And I would think that as of right now, everybody's sort of hoping with the way that he walked off and everything that it may just be of a tight muscle and they caught it beforehand and maybe he needs a week off or something like that. But so that's something to watch. You have everybody that says, well, is Jalen Neal coming back slower? And it's like, well, I've still heard that he's 2 weeks away right about now. So you're going to get Jalen Neal back. And then there's going to be the ability to go in there and mix and match Jalen Neal with there and everything else. Whenever you're looking at what somebody like, Garces can sort of put in there it's different than everything else that they have. And I think the flexibility in that and talking about possibly going to 3 in the back if you need to, or even having further backup if Garces with his speed can even move to an outside back position if you need to. There needs to be flexibility.
Yeah, I'll add to that. Watching some of the clips of him, he does tend to play kind of like that wide left center back or wide right back. Again, he's got the pace for it, so he can do that. So it's also a little bit more of tactical flexibility of how much you want to spread out the back line when they're in possession. And going on to some of what else I was watching, he's good when it comes to breaking that first line, right? When it's those strikers and attacking midfielders, he can break that first line, and that's exactly what the Galaxy want. You want to get the ball in the feet of Riqui Puig or Gaston Brugman, and Garces is going to do that.
So it should be really fun to sort of see. This seems rather advanced, as a matter of fact. For me, they were talking about in the report from Pipe, he was sort of saying that they already had visa talks and going on in terms of getting him in, so that way he could travel into the Galaxy. There seems to be some urgency in this to get him in. So I wouldn't be surprised if this closes this week, that type of thing, and that you could even see him next week. But as far as, rumors and stars and all that stuff, this is 5-star rumor, and at this point, I don't expect it not to happen. There is some housekeeping, though, on this as well. Whenever we look at the LA Galaxy's roster, the Galaxy currently have 12 internationals with 11 international slots. Now, one of those is Aaron Bibo, who is playing down with G2 right now. And so for me, that's still 11 of 11 as far as I'm concerned. So, there's ways to sort of move it out. If we really want to count and say, where are the LA Galaxy going to get an international slot? One of the other place they could possibly get it to is Gino Vivi. With Vivi being here. Now, that doesn't mean they also can't go out and buy one too, Alex. So there's all these sort of flexibilities in there. He can't be a U22 player because he turns 23 this year. Yeah. So that's out. So we are looking at something that could be in a TAM range, but we don't know that yet because it's a loan. And loans can mean a lot of things, in terms of where he's coming from and whether or not they want to just find a place for him to play. There's so many things. So I think on the financial part, we have to wait a little bit to figure out what the Galaxy are going to do and how they're going to do it. I know they were being asked earlier if the Galaxy still have a max TAM. I would hope this wouldn't be a max TAM sort of player. But if the Galaxy are going more all in on defense, I have less of an issue with that than maybe some others. I'm not a DP as a defender guy, so I'm one of those. But if you want to spend some money, some TAM money, and the Galaxy may even be able to, throw some general allocation money at this and pay it way down, those types of different things. So just sort of watch. We'll have to watch the financials whenever it comes. But it is, as accounting for the international slots right now, I have the Galaxy basically having 11. And then with Bibu being down with G2, and then you could possibly move Vivi down to G2 too as well if you think you have enough cover everywhere that you need to go. There's ways for the Galaxy to get sort of the internationals that they need to get and to bring him into this team. So I don't think that's going to be an issue either.
Yeah, I mean, they'll figure it out eventually. I mean, they always seem to do, especially when it comes to these roster moves. But, I mean, the minute you see, like, the notification that the Galaxy's acquired an international spot, you know it's about to go down.
Yeah, exactly. That's the next move you're going to see tomorrow is Galaxy acquired an international slot from the New England Revolution. Isn't that where the Galaxy usually get their international slots? So anyway, so that is going on as well. So that's the rumor update, and it seems like it's pretty close already. So something to keep in mind as the Galaxy go through this. So I mean, Alex, so we sort of teed this program off with, are the Galaxy good? And I think everybody's sort of wrestling with that. The Galaxy probably are, and I saw it in the chat room already talking about, when you look at the Eastern Conference, are the Galaxy as good as Cincinnati? I don't think they are yet. Are the Galaxy as good as Columbus? I don't think they are yet, right? Are the Galaxy as good as Philadelphia? Maybe. Philadelphia is like a little bit, like in terms of, this season, Philadelphia hasn't exactly caught on fire yet. So where do you put the LA Galaxy in terms of good? The advantage here is, and I hate to be, agree with sort of the East Coast fanboys a lot of times, but the Eastern Conference seems like it's a more difficult conference. And that allows the LA Galaxy to be a better team in the Western Conference right now as it stands. Yeah. So that's my general takeaway is that in the Western Conference, the Galaxy are going to have a lot more joy and find a lot more games that they can win in the Western Conference. The Eastern Conference, I think it would be tougher right now. Now we'll see. That can change and shift throughout the course of the season, but I'm seeing a lot of, as we've talked about it, mediocrity in the West right now, with Colorado getting a lot of points in terms of what they did beating LAFC last weekend. But if you go and watch a Colorado team, I'm not sold yet on a Colorado resurgence or anything like that. But Vancouver is playing very well. I think Minnesota was playing very well until last weekend. Salt Lake is playing pretty good. So there's some good teams here, and the LA Galaxy have a couple of those teams on their schedule here pretty quick. So are the Galaxy good? Where do you put them?
I put them top 3 team in the West, I think. I think they're good enough I think their offense, again, it's not about if they'll score, it's about when they'll score to me. That's the kind of mentality and thoughts I have about their attack, just with all the quality that they've added. And again, Joveljic getting on the score sheet a lot more. But again, big questions still remain on the defense with Garces likely coming in. I mean, how much is he going to change that? How much of impact is he going to be? We're seeing Yamane and Aude, like we mentioned earlier, really kind of live up to their potential and show that their quality out there. So I think they're a top 3 team in the West. Like you said, there's really not much great competition and great individual talent in the Western Conference, if we're really being honest. And I think the Galaxy, when it comes to just on paper talent, they're top 1 or 2 in that category. So I think that's going to be enough for them to be a top 3 team for the rest of the season. That's my prediction. They're not going to go lower than 4th.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I think you could easily find them. I thought that's where they were going to be last year. Right. And it was like they're a top 4 team in the West. And I thought that was still pretty accurate through a lot of that season, despite how horrible that season was. You're like, the talent gap isn't large enough where you would say, oh, it's not working or it's not there. To me, I still think it's there for the Galaxy. And I think this year with Painso and Pec now, and with Joveljic scoring the way he is, with Riqui Puig having the backup, with Gaston Bergman now coming around, I think the Galaxy are starting to round into shape a little bit even more than what we saw at the beginning. So, you're starting to see a better LA Galaxy team as they progress.
Yeah, and much better depth too, right? We got Cerrillo and Fagundes coming off the bench, right? They're going to get another center back as well. Neil's going to come back in. Their depth definitely is so much better compared to last season.
Oh, it's fun. It's fun to watch. I like watching exciting soccer, and even in the rain and the splish splash and all that fun stuff, it was still exciting to sort of watch that game and go. And a pretty good crowd, 22,000 plus for a rainy night in Southern California. So I'll take that. All right, Alex, anything else you want to touch on before we get out of here? Are we good?
Just really excited for Saturday, man. Hope to see everybody out there. I think it's going to be a really good time. I will debate if I will take my shirt off and flex into the cameras, if there are any cameras.
I don't know if there's going to be any cameras this time.
Okay, then probably not.
But if there are, then
myself.
Yeah, absolutely, I would.
Yeah, but I'm really looking forward to being there, meeting a lot of the listeners as well. It was a great time when we got to do that in Coachella. I thought it was really, really good. So really hoping we can do that at Dignity Health Sports Park and just all enjoy the game together.
It'll be a good time. Again, see us, doors open 3:30 p.m. at Dignity Health Sports Park for that watch party. So head on over there, catch our live pregame show with the wonderful Mr. Kevin Ryder. We can't wait to do it. We're excited. Maybe have another special guest if we can swing it. But as of right now, that's where we stand. All right. Alex, why don't you tell people where they can find you, and let's go.
Yeah, so you can find my newsletter, The Galactic Tribune, on Substack. It's also on my X at ALXRUIZ15, where you can find all my articles, stats, and things that I put up about the LA Galaxy. A bunch of LA Galaxy-related content that I think you guys will enjoy.
All right, there you go, Mr. Alex Ruiz. Always appreciate him. If you're looking for me on Twitter, it's at Guesman at Galaxy Podcast, cornerthegalaxy.com, where you can find all of our shows. And then, of course, get ready. Live show coming up on Saturday. Can't wait to see you out there at Dignity Health Sports Park as we get you ready in the pregame for El Traffico. We'll have another show coming up on Thursday night to get you ready for that El Traffico game. So a lot of fun, a lot of good stuff coming. We're glad that you can join us. For Mr. Alex Ruiz, I'm Josh Patrick Guesman. You've been listening. You've been watching to Corner of the Galaxy from the box on cornerthegalaxy.com. Have a great one, everybody.
You've been listening to the Corner of the Galaxy podcast on cornerofthegalaxy.com. You can follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at Galaxy Podcast. And be sure to check out and subscribe to iTunes, Stitcher, and Facebook by searching for Corner of the Galaxy. Fans, we thank you for listening. We ask that you be kind and courteous to your neighbors as you leave the podcast. We thank you for joining us and look forward to seeing you again. Until then, I'm Michael Araujo, and on behalf of the entire Corner of the Galaxy crew, goodbye.